The notification pierced through my bedroom at 3:24 a.m., lighting up the darkness like a warning flare. I was sprawled across my bed, still wearing yesterday's scrubs after pulling a brutal 14-hour shift in the cardiac unit. My eyes burned as I squinted at the screen, trying to focus on what looked like an unfamiliar group chat. Someone had accidentally added me to something called "The Truth About Christmas." The first message stopped my heart cold. Thank God Sarah's handling the holiday spread again. I wasn't about to blow $350 on all that food. My sister-in-law, Christine, she's so desperate for approval, she'll bankroll anything. It's actually pathetic. My brother, Daniel. The Christmas cash cow strikes again. My cousin, Monica. My hands trembled as I scrolled upward, each swipe revealing years of deception. This chat had been active for 4 years. 4 entire years of my family treating me like their personal ATM while laughing behind my back. There were screenshots of my Venmo transfers decorated with crying laughing emojis, jokes about my nursing salary, and how I was too naive to realize they were playing me. My own mother had posted a gif of someone burning money with the caption, "Sarah's holiday spirit in action." Sarah, that's me. The family fool, apparently. My throat constricted as I read message after message. They'd created betting pools about what I'd pay for next. My aunt had won $75 when I'd volunteered to cover the vacation rental in Tahoe last winter. $75. They'd literally turned my generosity into a gambling game. I sat there in the darkness of my one-bedroom apartment, the one I could barely afford because I'd been hemorrhaging money for every birthday, holiday, and manufactured crisis my family invented. The apartment with thrift store furniture because I'd just wired my mother $4,200 for her emergency surgery that I now realized, scrolling through these messages, had actually funded her Mediterranean cruise with her new boyfriend. Should we tell her we're doing Christmas at the lodge this year? She'll definitely cover it if we mention Mom's anxiety about hosting. Brilliant. Sarah's such a pushover. Just mention Mom's stress and she'll empty her bank account faster than a Vegas slot machine. The messages blurred as tears streamed down my face. Pushover. Christmas cash cow. Too naive to realize. I'd been a cardiac nurse for 8 years, working holidays, pulling doubles, sacrificing vacations. I told myself I was helping family, being the reliable one, the one who'd made it with my steady career. My mother used to introduce me to her friends as my daughter, the cardiac nurse, with such apparent pride. Turns out she was just proud of my direct deposits. The cruelest message came from my younger sister, Megan, the one I'd helped through nursing school. I'd covered her textbooks, her rent when she was struggling, even her car payment when she claimed she couldn't make ends meet. Sarah's working another holiday shift. More money for us. Maybe I'll finally get that designer bag I've been wanting since she's covering Christmas dinner and all the presents. You're terrible, but honestly, she makes it so easy. She practically volunteers to pay. I'd volunteered because every time I visited, someone would casually mention their financial struggles. How Dad's back surgery wasn't fully covered by insurance. How Daniel couldn't afford presents for his kids. How Grandma's prescriptions were bankrupting her. I felt guilty having a stable income when they seemed to be drowning. But Daniel had posted Instagram stories from his Miami weekend just 4 days after I'd sent him $1,200 for his kids' Christmas gifts. Christine had a new Louis Vuitton bag in every photo. Megan's apartment looked like a West Elm showroom. They weren't struggling. They were spending my money while I lived on instant noodles and picked up extra shifts. I kept scrolling through the chat history, each message cutting deeper than the last. There were discussions about my weight, my non-existent dating life, my boring hospital stories. Monica had written paragraphs about how I'd shown up to her engagement party in a dress from Ross while everyone else wore designer outfits. But what do you expect from someone who spends all her money on other people? LOL. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. They mocked me for not spending on myself while simultaneously exploiting the fact that I spent everything on them. I found messages from last Easter when I'd sent Mom $2,300 for the family dinner. She'd told me she was hosting 25 people and needed help with expenses. The chat revealed the truth. Only 12 people coming, but Sarah doesn't need to know. The extra money will cover my spa weekend. My hands shook so violently, I nearly dropped my phone. My mother had used money I'd earned cleaning bedpans and comforting dying patients to get hot stone massages. Then she'd posted selfies with blessed and grateful. There was an entire thread about my last birthday. I turned 33 and spent it alone with a grocery store cupcake because I was covering a double shift. I'd posted one photo on Instagram, just the cupcake with a single candle, captioned, "Another year older." The family chat had exploded. "Did you see Sarah's pathetic birthday post? Maybe if she wasn't always working, she'd have friends. She works constantly so she can send us money. It's called priorities." Christine had sent a gif of someone crying into a cake. 23 laugh reactions. I'd worked that double because Daniel had called me in tears about his water heater breaking. He needed $800 immediately. I'd picked up the shift, sent the money, and spent my birthday exhausted and alone. His water heater had been fine. 3 days after my birthday, he'd posted about his new home theater system. Top-of-the-line everything, easily $3,500 worth of equipment. The pattern became crystal clear. Every emergency that had pulled me away from my own life had been orchestrated. The crisis would arrive with perfect timing and maximum drama. I'd send money, and within days, social media would reveal exactly where my paycheck had gone. My aunt's furnace emergency in February had been fiction. She'd wanted a trip to Cabo. My money had paid for beachfront hotels while she told me she was wrapped in blankets waiting for repairs. I found a message from my mother dated 2 Christmases ago. Sarah asked if she could bring someone to Christmas dinner. Some doctor from her hospital told her we didn't have room. Can't have her distracted from her role as family fund by some boyfriend. I'd been dadding Ryan, an anesthesiologist, for 4 months. I'd been excited to introduce him to my family. When Mom said there wasn't space, I'd believed her and apologized for the presumption. Ryan and I had broken up 3 months later. He'd said I prioritized my family over our relationship, that I was never available because I was always working extra shifts to send money home. He'd been right, and my family had orchestrated it. There were other messages about other relationships I'd tried to build. My family had systematically isolated me, ensuring I remained alone and devoted to them. The lonelier I was, the more I turned to them for connection. The more I turned to them, the more money flowed their way. It was psychological warfare disguised as love. I discovered betting pools about my life decisions. When would I finally get a decent car? I was still driving a 16-year-old Toyota because every time I saved for a down payment, someone had a crisis. Would I ever move out of my sad little apartment? What excuse would work best to extract money for summer vacation? They'd weaponized my compassion. Every decent quality I possessed had been identified, analyzed, and monetized. The chat was still active. A new message appeared. "Is Sarah coming to Christmas this year? Need to know if we should actually cook, or just let her pay for catering like always. Oh, she'll come. Where else would she go? She has no life outside the hospital and being our personal Santa." My hands stopped shaking. Something ice cold and razor-sharp crystallized in my chest, replacing hurt with perfect clarity. They thought I had no life. They thought I was so desperate for their approval that I'd keep funding their lifestyle forever. I opened my laptop and began my reckoning. First, I logged into every payment app, every subscription, every account connected to my family. The streaming services everyone used, mine. The family phone plan covering Daniel, Christine, Megan, and my parents, all under my name, paid from my account. I'd been covering 7 phone lines for 4 years. Over $6,800 in phone bills alone. The Disney Plus subscription my nephews used. The Spotify family plan. The Amazon Prime account that gave everyone free 2-day shipping. The cloud storage for my mother's 12,000 photos, all mine. Then there were the direct payments. I'd kept meticulous records for tax purposes, thinking some might count as deductible gifts. The spreadsheet made me physically ill. $18,500 for last year's Christmas alone. I'd covered the lodge rental, all food, gifts, decorations, even gas money for everyone's drive to Lake Tahoe. $11,300 for Thanksgivings over the past 4 years combined. $22,000 in emergency loans, never repaid. $8,700 for Megan's education expenses. $5,200 for Daniel's kids, birthday parties and gifts. $6,400 in phone bills over 4 years. $9,800 in streaming services and subscriptions. $7,200 for various insurance payments. $4,100 for Mom's subscription boxes over 3 years. $3,600 for Christine's meal delivery service. $1,800 for miscellaneous crisis payments. Over the past 6 years, I'd given my family $98,600. $98,600. I could have bought a condo. I could have traveled the world. I could have built an actual life. Instead, I'd funded their vacations, their luxuries, their comfort while they called me pathetic in a group chat. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was the parasite, feeding their lives with my blood while they drained me dry. I took screenshots of everything, every message in that group chat, every payment receipt, every text where they'd asked for money with promises to pay me back. Then I started my systematic dismantling. But first, strategy. 8 years of nursing had taught me that you don't just yank out a central line without considering the consequences. You plan, you prepare, you ensure the patient can't bleed out and sue you for malpractice. I created a new email address completely separate from anything my family knew. Then I methodically changed the contact information on every account, every service, every subscription. I set up two-factor authentication on everything using my new email and a Google Voice number they'd never seen. Only after securing exclusive control of every account did I begin the destruction. The phone plan was first. 7 lines under my name costing me $420 monthly. I examined the usage data. Daniel averaged 58 gigabytes of data monthly streaming videos. Christine was constantly on social media. Megan's line showed international calls to her boyfriend studying in Spain. That explained the $230 in international charges I'd been absorbing for 8 months. My parents' lines were less offensive, but still presumptuous. Dad barely used his phone. Mom, however, had discovered TikTok and was streaming content continuously. I downloaded 3 years of records, every bill, every usage report. Then I called the carrier and explained I needed to remove all secondary lines immediately. The lines will disconnect in exactly 72 hours, the representative informed me. I set a calendar reminder for that exact moment. Streaming services were simpler but more satisfying. I logged into Netflix and checked the viewing history. 5 different profiles, none of them mine. Daniel had been binge-watching action movies. Christine favored reality TV about wealthy families, grimly appropriate. Megan watched medical dramas, probably laughing at how unrealistic they were while spending my actual medical salary. I deleted every profile except mine, changed passwords, enabled security settings that would boot every currently logged-in device. Each platform got the same treatment. Password changed, devices removed, account secured. The Costco membership revealed interesting purchase patterns. My mother had been shopping there twice weekly, buying everything from reasonable groceries to luxury items, an $850 patio set, a $400 KitchenAid mixer, cases of premium alcohol for parties I'd never been invited to. I canceled the membership and requested a pro-rated refund. $127 returned to my account. The cloud storage cancellation was perhaps the pettiest, but it brought genuine satisfaction. Mom had been backing up her entire digital life to my premium plan. Photos, videos, documents, everything. I downgraded to the basic free tier and watched the system immediately start sending her notifications about failed backups. Next came the less obvious but more expensive cancellations. I'd been paying for Daniel's car insurance for 18 months after he'd called panicking about losing coverage. That was $285 monthly I'd never see again. I called the insurance company and had his vehicle removed effective immediately. There might be a gap in his coverage, the representative warned. That's his problem, I replied. I'd been paying for Megan's gym membership at an exclusive fitness club, $115 monthly for her mental health, that she'd claimed she couldn't afford. I called and canceled. No notice period needed since I was the account holder. There was so much more. Mom's subscription boxes, 4 different ones delivering beauty products, gourmet snacks, books and crafts. Total cost, $185 monthly, all canceled. Christine's meal kit service, because she didn't have time to shop with the kids, $320 monthly, for pre-portioned ingredients delivered to her door while I survived on protein bars between shifts. Canceled. Dad's roadside assistance plan, the extended warranty on Daniel's television, Megan's subscription to a language learning app that cost $130 annually. Every automatic payment, every recurring charge, every service I'd set up and forgotten about. I went through 24 months of credit card statements and identified 57 different recurring charges connected to my family. Some were small, $7 monthly subscriptions. Others were substantial, like the $350 monthly contribution I'd been making to what I thought was Grandma's medical fund. The group chat had enlightened me about that particular scheme. Grandma was fine, living in a fully covered senior community. The medical fund had been Daniel's idea to cover his boat payment. He didn't even let Grandma ride in the boat. There were messages about her asking to go fishing and him making excuses. By 8:00 a.m., I'd canceled or transferred 57 services and subscriptions. My monthly expenses had just dropped by $2,463. Annually, I'd been spending nearly $30,000 on services for people who called me pathetic. The math was so absurd I started laughing. Harsh, bitter laughter that turned into tears, then back to laughter until I couldn't breathe properly. I drafted an email to my landlord explaining I wouldn't be renewing my lease when it expired in 4 months. Then I started looking at positions in Seattle, where I'd been offered a job at a prestigious cardiac center last year. I turned it down because my family had guilt-tripped me about abandoning them. "Who will take care of us if you leave?" my mother had sobbed. The job posting had been filled, but similar positions were available. I sent my resume to 3 hospitals, all at least 500 miles from my current location. By noon, I'd filed paperwork to legally change my name. Sarah Mitchell would become Sarah Walker, my grandmother's maiden name. The woman who'd actually loved me, who died before she could see what her family would become. The sun was setting when I composed my message for the Truth About Christmas group chat. I attached a PDF, 43 pages of receipts, bank statements, and payment records. Every cent I'd given them over 6 years, categorized and dated. My message was simple. "Hello, everyone. I see I was accidentally added to this chat. How illuminating. Since I'm apparently the Christmas cash cow and pathetic parasite, I've decided to stop feeding the herd." Attached, you'll find documentation of every payment I've made to this family over the past 6 years, totaling $98,600. Consider it my final Christmas gift, the truth about who the real parasites are. All shared services and subscriptions have been terminated effective immediately. The phone plan disconnects in 72 hours. I will not be attending Christmas this year or any year after. I will not be available for emergency loans, holiday funding, or financial support of any kind. For anyone confused about why, scroll up. You spent 4 years making it crystal clear what you think of me. I finally believe you. Merry Christmas. Don't contact me again. I hit send and immediately blocked every family member's number. Then I deactivated every social media account. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything. I didn't want to see their responses. I didn't want their excuses or their anger. When you go nuclear, you have to commit completely. No half measures, no looking back. My phone started buzzing within minutes, unknown numbers trying to call. I'd expected that. I powered it off completely. The hospital administration had offered me extra holiday shifts because so many nurses wanted time off. I'd always been the one to volunteer, telling myself it was better to work than impose on my family's celebrations. Now I understood I'd only been welcome when I came bearing gifts and open wallets. I picked up every available shift from November through January 15th. 78 days of time and a half pay, double time for the actual holidays. With my base salary and overtime, I was looking at roughly $62,000 for 2.5 months of work. I worked, I slept, I worked again. No phone calls, no social media, no family, just work. My colleagues noticed something had changed. I'd always been friendly but distant, always rushing off to help family with something. Now I stayed for after-shift coffee. I joined the hospital's trivia team. I went to a Thanksgiving potluck at my colleague Maria's house and met her family, normal people who didn't calculate everyone's net worth before deciding if they deserved kindness. The weeks between my revelation and Thanksgiving were surreal. I existed in a bubble where my old life couldn't touch me. My phone stayed off except for work calls on my new number. I created a new email and forwarded only essential correspondence. Everything from my old accounts went into a void I never checked. At work, I was sharper than I'd been in years. Without the constant mental drain of managing my family's manufactured emergencies, I had cognitive space for my actual job. I caught a medication error before it reached a patient. I noticed subtle changes in a patient's condition that the attending physician had missed, potentially preventing a cardiac event. Dr. Harrison, the department head, pulled me aside after that save. "Whatever's changed with you, Walker," he said, using my new legal name, "keep it up. You've always been competent, but lately you've been exceptional. I didn't tell him that exceptional was simply what happened when you stopped being slowly bled dry by emotional vampires. The first real test came 4 weeks in. I was reviewing charts in the cardiac unit when I heard my old name called. Not Sarah Walker. Nobody at work knew about the name change yet. Sarah Mitchell, my dead identity. I turned to find Megan standing in the hallway, looking desperate and small. "You can't be here," I said immediately. "This is a restricted area. Visitor waiting rooms are on the 3rd floor. Sarah, please, I just need 5 minutes. Security," I called out calmly. "Unauthorized person in the cardiac unit." Megan's eyes widened. "Sarah, come on, I drove 6 hours. A security guard appeared within seconds. Our unit had strict protocols for good reasons. "This person isn't authorized to be here," I told him. "Please escort her out of the building." "Sarah, I'm your sister." Megan's voice cracked. "I don't have a sister," I said, meeting her eyes steadily. "I'm an only child. Please remove her." Megan was crying as security led her away. I felt nothing. No guilt, no sadness, no sympathy. She'd called me pathetic while spending the education money I'd worked overtime to provide. She'd laughed about me being desperate for approval. 5 minutes of tears didn't erase 4 years of cruelty. Maria found me in the supply closet 10 minutes later, taking inventory with mechanical precision. "Want to talk about it?" she asked gently. "Nothing to talk about," I said. "Someone tried to access a restricted area. Security handled it." "Sarah," she put her hand on my shoulder. "That woman said she was your sister." "I don't have a sister." Maria studied me for a long moment. "Okay," she finally said. "But if you ever want to talk, I'm here. And for what it's worth, whatever happened, I'm proud of how you handled it. Professional, appropriate, no drama." I nodded, not trusting my voice. After she left, I finished my inventory, logged everything properly, and returned to my patients. Routine and structure kept me grounded. Thanksgiving arrived. Maria's invitation had been genuine, and I'd accepted. I showed up with an expensive bottle of wine and homemade cranberry sauce, things I could finally afford. Maria's house was warm and chaotic in the best way. Her husband Carlos told terrible dad jokes while cooking. Their 3 teenagers argued about video games. Maria's mother, Rosa, sat in the kitchen teaching Maria's youngest how to make tamales from scratch. "You must be Sarah," Rosa said warmly, wiping flour-covered hands on her apron. "Maria talks about you constantly. The brilliant nurse who never complains about extra shifts." "That's me," I said, feeling awkward. Genuine compliments still felt foreign. "Well, we're glad you're here," Rosa said. "Maria mentioned you're alone for the holidays." There it was, the inevitable question I'd prepared for. "My family and I aren't in contact anymore," I said simply. "Toxic situation. Better for everyone that I walked away." Rosa nodded knowingly. "Good for you, Mija. Too many people stay in harmful situations because of blood. Family should lift you up, not drain you dry." The word drain hit differently coming from a stranger. Validation from someone with no agenda. Dinner was loud and wonderful. The food was good but not perfect, and nobody cared. Carlos's turkey was slightly overcooked. Maria had forgotten to add sugar to the cranberry sauce. One of the kids spilled gravy on the tablecloth. Everyone laughed it off. Rosa told a story about the time she'd accidentally served still-frozen tamales to 20 guests. "We ordered Chinese food," she laughed. "Best Thanksgiving ever, because it was the year we stopped pretending everything had to be perfect." I thought about my family's holidays, where I'd funded professional catering and elaborate decorations to maintain an image of success. Meanwhile, they'd mocked me in their group chat for trying too hard. This casual, imperfect dinner with near strangers was better than any holiday I'd spent with blood relatives. After dinner, while the teenagers played board games, Maria and I stepped onto her back deck with coffee. "Thank you for inviting me," I said. "This was really nice." "Thank you for coming," Maria replied. "I know it probably feels weird spending holidays with coworkers." "You're more than a coworker," I said, surprising myself with honesty. "You're a friend, maybe my only real friend." Maria was quiet for a moment. "What happened with your family, Sarah? You don't have to tell me, but I've worked with you for 4 years, and you've changed so much these past weeks. You're lighter somehow, like you were carrying something crushing and finally put it down." I told her, not everything but the core of it, the group chat, the mockery, the money. Maria listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from shock to anger to sadness. $98,000, she repeated when I finished. "Sarah, that's financial abuse. You know that, right?" I hadn't thought about it in those terms. Abuse felt like too strong a word, but Maria continued. They manipulated you, lied to you, isolated you, and exploited your kindness for years. That's abuse. The fact that their family doesn't make it less severe, it makes it worse. Hearing it labeled so clearly broke something in me. My eyes burned with tears I refused to shed. I feel stupid, I admitted. Like I should have seen it sooner. Con artists target smart people, Maria said firmly. Because smart people think they're too smart to be conned. You're not stupid, you're kind. They weaponized your kindness. That's on them, not you. December 24th arrived. I was working a 12-hour shift in the ICU. Around 4:00 p.m., a woman in her 60s approached the nurse's station looking lost. "I'm trying to find my daughter," she said. "She's a nurse here, Sarah Mitchell." I recognized her immediately despite the changes. My mother looked older, more haggard. Her hair was completely gray now. Apparently she couldn't afford her usual dye job without my money. "I'm sorry," I told her calmly. "There's no one here by that name." It wasn't technically a lie. Sarah Mitchell was legally dead. Sarah Walker had taken her place. "Please," my mother begged. "I know she works here. I need to talk to her. It's Christmas Eve." Security arrived before I had to respond. Apparently, she'd been making a scene in the lobby for 2 hours. They escorted her out while she screamed my old name. I finished my shift with steady hands. The Seattle hospital offered me the position on January 5th. Cardiac ICU supervisor, $55,000 more annually than I was making. Signing bonus, full relocation assistance, and a down payment loan for housing. I accepted immediately. By mid-January, my name change was fully processed. Sarah Mitchell was legally extinct. Sarah Walker was born with a fresh Social Security card, new nursing license, new everything. I was reborn with documentation to prove it. My apartment in Seattle was twice the size of my old studio, in a building with a gym and a rooftop garden. I bought real furniture, not clearance items or hand-me-downs. I bought art for my walls. I adopted a cat from the local shelter, an orange tabby I named Phoenix. We'd both risen from the ashes of who we used to be. My old email address received messages for months. I never opened them. They went to a folder labeled Dead to Me that auto-archived everything. But curiosity got the better of me in March. My mother's emails were dissertation-length guilt trips about family obligation and how cruel I was being. Christine sent a 3-sentence apology that somehow blamed her behavior on stress from her kids. Daniel wrote that I'd misunderstood the context of the group chat. They'd been joking. Couldn't I take a joke? Megan's message was different. Short, direct. "You paid for my education and I called you pathetic. You're the strongest person I know and I'm the weak one. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I've started paying you back. It'll take years, but I'm putting $300 into a savings account every month in your name. I'll send you the details when I have your address. If you never want to speak to me again, I understand. But I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry." I didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either. The others could rot, but Megan's message lived in my inbox, a tiny seed of something that might eventually grow into forgiveness. Maybe, years from now. One email stood out from the rest. My father's. He'd never been active in the group chat. I'd noticed his name listed but rarely saw him post. "Sarah, I didn't know about the chat until you sent those screenshots. Your mother showed me her phone, and I saw what they'd all written. What I'd allowed by staying silent when I should have noticed what was happening. You deserved better from all of us, but especially from me. I should have protected you. I filed for divorce last week. I'm living in an apartment now, working with a therapist to understand how I enabled this. I'm not asking for forgiveness or reconciliation. I just wanted you to know that I see what I failed to do, and I'm trying to become someone who wouldn't fail you again, even if you never let me be part of your life. I love you, I'm proud of you, and I'm sorry. Dad." I read that email 5 times before closing my laptop. Some bridges you burn. Some bridges burn themselves. And some bridges collapse under the weight of years of foundational cracks you'd been too busy to notice. Spring came to Seattle with cherry blossoms and rain. I dated a pediatrician named James who thought my dedication to my career was admirable, not something to exploit. We took weekend trips to the San Juan Islands. He insisted on splitting everything 50-50. Maria flew up to visit in April. Her mother sent homemade tamales with her. "For our other daughter," Rosa had written on the container. I cried in my kitchen for 20 minutes. My bank account grew. I paid off my student loans in May, all $45,000 gone in one payment. I stared at the zero balance and felt weightless. In June, I received a cashier's check for $1,800 with a note from Megan. First payment. Many more to come. Your new address was on public record from the hospital's website. Not stalking, I promise. Just want to make this right. I deposited the check and sent back a single text to the number she'd included. Received. By July, my mother had found my address. I came home to find her sitting outside my building, looking older and smaller than I remembered. Security will remove you if I call them, I said, not breaking stride toward the entrance. Sarah, please. That's not my name anymore. You're my daughter. I stopped, turned, looked at her properly for the first time in 8 months. The woman who'd raised me, who'd taught me to tie my shoes and ride a bike, seemed like a stranger wearing a familiar face. Your daughter died when she realized her family saw her as an ATM with legs, I said quietly. You have 60 seconds to leave before I call the police. She left in 45. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt tired. That night I sent my father a short email. Read your message. Not ready to talk. Maybe someday. Focus on yourself. He responded within an hour. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. Summer in Seattle was gorgeous. James and I hiked Mount Rainier. I took a solo vacation to Japan, something I'd dreamed about for years. I posted photos on my new private Instagram account that only had 40 followers, all people I'd met in the past year. Nobody asked me for money. Nobody needed me for anything except my company. In August, Megan sent another check with a longer note. Got promoted to charge nurse. Sending $700 this month. Told Daniel and Christine what I'm doing. They think I'm stupid for giving you money you don't need. That's how I know it's the right thing to do. You deserve every penny back. I'm trying to be better. I sent back, proud of your promotion. Keep half that money for yourself, I mean it. Her response came immediately. Only if you promise to let me take you to lunch if you're ever back east. No agenda, just sisters eating overpriced salads. I didn't promise, but I didn't say no either. September brought cooler weather and a realization. I'd rebuilt my entire life in less than a year. New city, new job, new name, new relationships. Everything the old Sarah had been too afraid to reach for because she'd been too busy being everyone's safety net. The new Sarah wasn't afraid anymore. I got a tattoo on my shoulder blade, a phoenix rising from flames. The artist asked about the significance. Rebirth, I said simply. She smiled. Those are the best kind. October arrived with falling leaves and an unexpected package. Inside was a hand-knitted scarf in deep purple, my favorite color, with a note from my father. Your grandmother taught me to knit before she died. I'm not good at it yet, but I'm trying. Stay warm. No response needed. The scarf was uneven with several dropped stitches. It was perfect. I wore it every cold day that fall. The first anniversary of the discovery, as I'd come to think of it, fell on a random Wednesday. I'd worked the night shift and came home to find another check from Megan. She'd been consistent, never missing a month, and an email from my father with photos of him volunteering at a veterans hospital, trying to be useful to people who actually need help, trying to be someone you could be proud of again someday. I looked at my calendar. Christmas was 9 weeks away. James asked if I wanted to spend the holidays with his family in Vancouver. Maria invited me to her house again. I had options now, people who wanted my presence, not my presence. I chose Maria's. Her warmth reminded me of what family was supposed to feel like. On Christmas Eve, I worked a half shift, then went to Maria's house for dinner. Her kids performed a chaotic nativity play with the family dog as a reluctant angel. Carlos made terrible jokes. Rosa asked about Phoenix and showed me videos of her own rescue cats. Nobody asked for money. Nobody needed me to be anything except myself. After dinner, I checked my email. One new message from Megan. Merry Christmas. Not expecting a response. Just wanted you to know I think about you every day and I'm still sorry. Still paying back. Still trying. Hope you're happy wherever you are. I wrote back, Merry Christmas. I'm happy. Keep being better, that's enough. Her response was immediate. You responded. Best Christmas gift ever. Love you, sis. I stared at those words. Part of me wanted to say it back. Part of me wasn't ready. I wrote, talk next year, maybe. She replied, maybe is enough, thank you. I closed my laptop and rejoined the party. Maria's daughter was trying to teach Phoenix. I'd brought him to wear a Santa hat. James brought me cocoa and kissed my forehead. Someone started a board game that devolved into cheerful arguing. This was what holidays were supposed to be. Joy without transaction. Love without calculation. A year ago, I'd been the Christmas cash cow, unknowingly feeding a family that saw me as prey. Now I was just Sarah, free, happy, whole. The best revenge, I'd learned, wasn't destruction. It was reconstruction. I'd burned down who I was and built someone better from the ashes. On New Year's Eve, I received a final message from my father. I know you're not ready. I might never be forgiven, and I've accepted that. But I wanted you to know your mother and I are divorced. I'm in therapy. I've cut off everyone who was in that chat. I'm living differently now, not for you, for me. So I can look at myself in the mirror. You deserved a father who protected you. I'm becoming that man even if it's too late. Happy New Year, sweetheart. I saved that message. Didn't respond yet, but maybe eventually I would. Some relationships can be salvaged, some can't. The trick is knowing which ones deserve the effort. As midnight approached, James pulled me close and asked what I wanted for the new year. More of this, I said, gesturing at the life I'd built. More peace, more joy, more people who love me for me, not for what I can give them. That's not too much to ask, he said. For the first time in my life, I believed him. The new year arrived with champagne and laughter and hope. I'd once paid for everything at Christmas, holidays, gifts, everyone's happiness except my own. Now I'd paid for something far more valuable, my freedom. The following March, I got an unexpected call at work. My father had been admitted to a hospital in Portland with a heart attack. He'd listed me as his emergency contact. I stood there holding the phone, my hand trembling slightly. Maria noticed and came over. You okay? My father, I said. Heart attack, he's in Portland. The father you haven't spoken to in over a year. I nodded. What are you going to do? I thought about the scarf he'd knitted with uneven stitches, the volunteer work, the divorce, the therapy, the attempts to change. I'm going to see him, I said. Not for him, for me, to see if maybe some bridges can be rebuilt. Maria squeezed my shoulder. Want company? Yeah, I said. I'd like that. We drove to Portland that afternoon. My father looked small in the hospital bed, older than his 58 years. When he saw me, tears streamed down his face. Sarah, he whispered. It's Sarah Walker now, I said, sitting in the chair beside his bed. But you can call me Sarah. We talked for 3 hours. Not about the past, that would come later, maybe. We talked about his volunteer work, my job in Seattle, the scarf he'd made, Phoenix the cat. Small things, safe things, building blocks for something that might eventually become a relationship. He never asked for money, never asked me to pay for his medical bills, never asked for anything except the chance to know who I'd become. When visiting hours ended, I stood to leave. Sarah, he called. Thank you for coming. I know I didn't deserve it. No, I said. You didn't. But I'm not doing this for the father you were. I'm doing it for the father you might become. Don't make me regret it. I won't, he promised. And somehow, I believed him. As Maria and I drove back to Seattle, she asked, How do you feel? Like I'm finally writing my own story, I said. Not the one my family wrote for me, not the one where I'm the victim or the hero or the fool, just my story. And what's the next chapter? She asked. I thought about it as Seattle's skyline came into view. My apartment with Phoenix waiting. James coming over for dinner tomorrow. My work at the hospital. Megan's monthly checks that I'd started donating to a scholarship fund for nursing students. My father, possibly, slowly, becoming someone worth knowing. Whatever I want it to be, I said. And for the first time in my life, that felt like enough. No, it felt like everything. If this story resonated with you, remember that family isn't always about blood. It's about the people who see your worth beyond what you can give them. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the courage to walk away from those who only see you as a resource. And if you're still here, reading this, maybe you needed to hear that it's okay to choose yourself. It's not selfish, it's survival.